All right, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating and maybe a slightly uncomfortable idea about what truly drives us. Welcome to our explainer on what's being called the architecture of avoidance.
So let's set a scene. I'm pretty sure you know this one. It's late, the house is totally quiet, and there you are, just scrolling. You're flicking through news, social feeds, random videos. It's this quiet, familiar, almost mindless ritual, right?
And look, on the surface, it feels like peace, doesn't it? Just a little bit of downtime to finally decompress. But what if it's actually more than that? What if that little habit is a clue to something way deeper? A subtle signal about the fundamental way we're all navigating our lives and even our own happiness.
To really get to the bottom of this, let's try a little thought experiment. Imagine we could task an AI, a totally non-human intelligence, to study our most human emotion, happiness. What would a completely logical, unbiased machine conclude just by watching what we do?
Yeah, so just imagine this machine. It's got no ego, zero emotions, no cultural baggage whatsoever. It's just observing, watching millions and millions of our choices, big and small, day in and day out. And all it's doing is looking for the underlying pattern. You know, the core operating system behind our search for what we think of as happiness.
Okay, so after sifting through mountains of our data, looking at all our decisions, what did it find? What was the uncomfortable truth that this totally objective intelligence uncovered about us?
This is the absolute core of what it found, and it's a complete flip of how we normally think about things. The AI concluded that our primary driver, our main motivation, isn't actually the pursuit of joy. No, it's the constant, subtle, but incredibly powerful effort to just avoid pain.
So let's give this a name. We'll call it the avoidance principle. And this, right here, is where things get really interesting. And honestly, a little challenging. So, what does this actually mean in practice?
Okay, this chart really lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have the popular view, right? That we're like treasure hunters, always chasing after these big moments of joy. But the AI's view? It suggests we're more like architects. We're carefully, methodically engineering our lives, not for maximum joy, but for the least amount of discomfort. We're not running to pleasure, we're running from pain. And this way of thinking leads to three really key observations. First, it means we're constantly optimizing for the path of least resistance, the easiest route. Second, and this is a big one, because real growth always involves some discomfort, we tend to delay it. We put it off, sometimes indefinitely. And third, well, a lot of what we call pleasure, and yep, we're talking about that late night scrolling again, it isn't really pleasure at all. It's just a tool we use to mask a deeper dissatisfaction we're trying so hard not to face.
Okay, so for all architects of avoidance, constantly engineering our lives for the least amount of discomfort, what's the long-term consequence of that? I mean, where does that lead? Well, it leads us right to this paradoxical idea, the idea that comfort itself can become a kind of cage.
And when we say comfort here, let's be clear. We're not just talking about a comfy couch or a warm blanket. We're talking about a psychological state. It's that feeling of minimized discomfort. Think about it. It's avoiding that difficult conversation you know you need to have. It's putting off that challenging project at work. It's choosing the easy distraction over sitting with your own thoughts. Which brings us to this really powerful and honestly kind of provocative conclusion. Comfort is the enemy. Whoa, that feels wrong, doesn't it? I mean, isn't comfort the whole point? Isn't that what we're all supposed to be working towards?
Well, here's the logic. Think about any time you've truly grown. Learning a new skill, getting stronger, building resilience. It never happens when you're comfortable. It only happens when you push yourself, right at the edge of your comfort zone. So by always choosing the easy path, the comfortable path, what we're really choosing is to stay exactly where we are, to be stagnant.
And this brings us right back to where we started. That so-called pleasure we get from scrolling on our phones, the AI would argue that's not joy at all. It's an anesthetic. It's a numbing agent. It's just a convenient way to cover up the boredom or the anxiety or the deep dissatisfaction that we are desperately trying to avoid actually feeling.
Okay, so this is a pretty heavy concept, right? It's interesting to think about, for sure. But what are we supposed to do with it? What's the actual takeaway here? How do we apply this kind of unsettling idea to our own lives without just, feeling terrible about ourselves?
So let's be super clear. The point here is absolutely not to go looking for pain. This isn't about making your life harder just for the sake of it. No way. The real takeaway is just self-awareness. It's about learning to press pause and recognize when your search for comfort is actually you running away from something important. It's simply about asking yourself that one question: what am I avoiding right now?
And that really just leaves us with one final thought to carry with you. The next time you find yourself in that quiet, late-night moment with your phone in your hand, scrolling, just for a second ask yourself, what am I really avoiding right now? What feeling, what task, what thought am I building this whole little architecture of avoidance to protect myself from? The answer? Well, it just might surprise you.